Hello, psychology students. This is the last in a series of videos having to do with work of Jean Piaget. One of the things you've been hearing about so far in the videos that you've seen are something that Piaget called operations or mental operations, even though you've not heard that term yet. Mental operations, this has to do with the things that happen inside of your head and the ability to accurately imagine things that are happening in the outside world. In a few minutes, we're going to see that at various ages along the way, children make certain standard mistakes. The reason that they do this is because they lack certain mental operations, and these change as youngsters go through the various stages. In this table on the left, you see the same 4 stages that you heard about earlier, read about in the textbook. Those stages being the sensorimotor period, the preoperational period, the concrete operational period, and the formal operational period. Youngsters go through these stages in the same order, most but not all youngsters reaching formal operations at around the time of puberty. Over the next few slides, we're also going to be paying attention to some of the unusual situations that happen. That is, we're going to be taking a look at some of the items that you see pointed out with the big red arrows there. And we're going to do them in order. So taking a look at the first period there, the sensorimotor period, we want to talk about children lacking what Piaget called object permanence. The business of object permanence means the belief that something which is out of sight continues to exist. Incredibly, until a youngster somewhere between 8, maybe 12 months old, many of them believe that if you can't see an object, it no longer exists. In the next short video that you're going to see, you see a youngster about 7 months old who lacks object permanence. The mom or other lady hides an object right in front of the youngster under a cloth, does it 3 times in a row. The youngster knows where it went. Why doesn't she lift the cloth and pick it up? Well, the only possible explanation is that she believes it no longer exists. Let's watch and see what happens.
What do you have there? Is that your yummy giraffe? Let me see. Let me see. Can I see? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where's that giraffe? Okay.
I think you would agree this youngster displayed some surprising behavior. All that he had to do was to reach out and lift up the cloth, and there the toy would be. But alas, the toy no longer existed. But mother could create it, again, by lifting the cloth. In the next age group, the preoperational period, we want to talk about egocentrism. Piaget described children of this age, 2 to 7, as being egocentric. Now, words oftentimes have more than one meaning. I've stressed that in this course. The word egocentric here does not mean stuck up. What it means is that the child believes that what they see, well, that's what the world is for everyone. Stop and think about this from a practical point of view. If you've got a youngster at your house, about 4 years old, and you're getting ready to watch the Super Bowl game, and you've got lots of friends there, if they too are excited about watching the game, where do they stand? Right in front of the television. And then you have to say to them, "Hey, you, get out of the way. I can't see through your head." And they turn around and they give you a shocked look like this. They didn't know. They thought that what they saw, the game, was what everyone saw. Now, let's take a look at this next little video. This youngster displays this sort of egocentrism.
Can you tell me what you see when you look at that from where you're sitting? What are some of the things that you see?
And a cat.
A cat.
And a tree and a bone.
Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. Can you tell me what you see when you look at it from that stool?
An owl.
An owl.
And him.
What is that?
A goat.
A goat.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else you see?
Yeah, right there.
Right there, what is that?
A tree.
A tree.
And that's another little tree.
Another little tree?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And can you tell me what I see when I look at this from where I'm sitting right here?
An owl.
Okay.
And a goat.
Mm-hmm.
And a little tree. And that. And that.
Did you catch that? The things that the youngster saw on his side of the mountain were what he believed that she could see, but she couldn't because the mountain was in the way. She had different objects on her side, and he had previously named them. Now, let's see how an older child handles this. This would be a youngster in the concrete operational group. We're not going to see him make the same mistake, and that's because he is not egocentric.
Okay, so can you tell me what you see from that side?
A fox and a bone and a volcano and a rock and a big fat Christmas tree.
Now, Braxton, can you tell me what I see from where I'm sitting?
A bird and a river and a volcano and a horsey and a rock and a plant.
Piaget also observed that children in the pre-operational period also lack an operation that he called conservation. Conservation appears to the right of the second red arrow down, over on the far right-hand side, and you can see it defined as a child lacking the ability to understand certain qualities about physical objects. Namely, they believe that if you change the shape of an object, you actually change the amount of the object. It's not conserved. I would have preferred to say preserved. But Piaget, at least in translation, the term conserved is used. Now, let's watch a short video in which a young lady demonstrates that by changing the container in which a fluid is placed, you can change the amount of the fluid. Here we go.
Can you look at these two glasses? Do you think that they have the same amount of juice? You think they have the same? Okay. Now we're going to pour this juice into this glass. Now, do you think that this glass has more juice, this glass has more juice, or do you think that they have the same amount?
That one has more.
This one has more, and why do you think that this one has more?
Because it's taller.
And let's see what an older child says, a youngster in the concrete operations group.
So first we're going to look at these two cups right here. Do you think there's the same amount of juice in this glass as there is in that glass?
They're even.
They're even? Okay. So we're going to take the juice from this glass and pour it into this one right here.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to look at this glass and that one. So do you think that there's more juice in this glass, more juice in this glass, or do you think that they have the same amount?
Same amount.
Okay, why do you think that they have the same amount?
Just because this is skinny doesn't mean it's not the same amount. It has the same amount of juice in it, but this one is just wider and this one's skinnier, but they have the same amount of juice in it.
Let's take another look at a younger child, another youngster who lacks conservation. Let's watch her tell us how many quarters there are.
Okay, you ready? Yeah. Okay. Does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more quarters, or do they have the same?
1, 2, 3. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're both the same.
They're the same?
5, 5.
Okay. Okay. Does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more, or do they have the same?
This one has more.
That one has more quarters?
Yeah.
Why does this row have more quarters?
Because it's more far away.
It's more far away?
Yeah, it's more far away than that. Looks bigger.
Don't you wish that you could have more money simply by spreading it out farther on the table? It does carry a greater area. Now, let's watch the same youngster again demonstrate her lack of conservation.
All right, we're going to play a game with the graham crackers, and we're going to share them between me and you, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Do you think that we shared those fairly?
No.
No, why not?
You have those and I have this one.
Well, what if we try this? Okay, can I put this down right there?
Okay.
Now is it fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, why is it fair now?
Because we both have two.
That particular video of mine is a favorite of mine that demonstrates the lack of conservation. When kiddos get to be around 8, they stop making this particular mistake. That's because they now have the operation that Piaget called conservation. When my grandson was about 4, one day I'd made a sandwich for him, and I cut it into 4 pieces and put it in front of him. And he looked at me with absolute delight and said, "Oh, thank you, Grandpa. Grandma only gives me 2 pieces." She would cut it in half. Let's compare and contrast the concrete operational period, ages 7 to 11, to the formal operational period now, puberty and a bit later. The younger youngsters have conservation. They think correctly about physical objects, but they're typically not yet able to think about abstract objects in an abstract way. As adults, you and I, having abstract operations, formal operations, we can talk about love as being something such as the quality of caring, where one person's needs come ahead of one's own. But ask a young youngster about that, and they'll tell you that, well, love is like if they want a bicycle for their birthday, you'll save up for it. How concrete. Let's visit with my grandson Michael now. He's 8 years old, and I'm going to ask him a question about something which we as adults would think of as being an abstraction, but he talks about it in a very concrete way. You're just going to tell me what this means to you, okay? There's an old saying that goes something like this: you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. What does that mean to you?
It means if you just pour vinegar on them, it will just burn them up. But if you put honey on them, they'll just stick right to it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, I think you guys would agree with me that you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Does not mean you should pour honey onto the flies if you want to catch them. In today's video, we have taken a look at certain qualities called operations. We've said that youngsters who in the sensorimotor period lack object permanence, but once they reach the preoperational period, they've got it. We've said that youngsters in the preoperational period are egocentric and that they lack conservation, but that a few years later, in concrete operations, they now have conservation. But even though an older youngster may have conservation, they lack the ability to think abstractly. Once again, everybody who reaches the age of puberty does not develop the ability to think abstractly. It's partly a function of intelligence. People of normal intelligence will typically develop it, and also of education. I'm hoping you found this video educational, interesting, and fun. You take care and have yourself a great psychology day.